So today we've got a really good video. I'm going to be turning this into this. This is going to be our first attempt at wood bending. What could possibly go wrong? Now I'm going to make this project look a lot harder than it actually is. If you've got veneer, you can skip on about a minute or so and get straight to the next bit. But if you haven't, all you need to do is find some scrap hardwood like I've got here and cut some really thin slithers off. Then tape them all together, put them in your Moxon vise and plane them off. Once they're all of the same width, you can then move on to the stage of cutting out the form that you're actually going to bend them around. So it is a lot easier than I make it look. Okay, now you've got the wood to bend, you need to bend it around something. This is where you need to make a form. I used 2 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood, cut the shape I wanted out of it using a jigsaw, and then straightened up the edges using my plane. You can use a sander if you want for this, so long as they're nice and square, it's nice and easy. Wrap it in tape, and then you're ready to start putting your wood around it. Quick test run here with some scraps. I left them to steam for about 45 minutes or soak in hot water. Then I tried to bend them around the form while they were wet, which is the first stage of this. You let them dry and then they should keep that form. Sapele broke, Oak did alright, but I decided they needed to be thinner if I was going to get them both to go round. So after a whole lot of planing later, I had them all nice and thin and it was time to soak them and try and bend for the first time. I don't really know if it helped here, but I wrapped some tape around the top just to hold the fibres together, then put a big clamp on it. Then I clamped all of it as close as I could get to the form and then let it dry. And then... So on the first look, they weren't quite dry, but I wasn't going to let that stop me. I slapped them back on the mould, threw them back into the sun, give them another couple of hours. I have to say at this stage I was starting to think that this might not actually work. Anyway, they got dried and I brought them back inside the shed so that I could start applying the glue. I decided to put a piece of tape over the outside here so that I could actually bend it around the form a little bit easier. And with that in place, I just applied glue liberally between each one of the pieces and then clamped them back onto the form again with lots and lots and lots and lots of tape. I think it's worth noting here that if you get to this stage in a project where it looks like it's going to beat you or it may beat you, just press on. You never know what will come out at the end and you will regret it more if you give up on it. I also love soaking up advice from the woodworking community, so if you've got any out there, please don't hold back. Pop it in the comments. Now I left this to dry for around about 24 hours, came to open it, and as soon as I opened it a little bit, I saw that some of it had not actually fully dried properly. I think I'd probably used too much tape if I'm honest with you here, and it hadn't had a chance to cure. So I popped it back together again and let it cure for a little bit longer with the gaps now filled with a bit more glue. Sadly, even after some more curing time and that extra glue in there, when I came to open them, it was a bit of a disaster. What had basically happened is that it hadn't closed tight enough for the glue to cure and pull the wood together and keep it there. Same had happened on the Sapele. So once again I put more glue in, and this time instead of actually clamping it all to the form, I just clamped it to the stage that I could get those bits of wood to fully close and press together. If anybody out there has done this before and they have a better way of doing this, pop it in the comments for me please. Anyway, I just tightened the base to pull the top closer together, popped a load of clamps on it, kept my fingers really tightly crossed and then left it again to dry. Did it work? Well, let's hear what Shedmark has to say.
It's not perfect, but it has stopped any spring back. So now what we've managed to do, the success is we've managed to curve the wood.
He's right, they were actually rock solid, so I decided to give them a bit of a trim down. I first of all flattened the sides with the sandpaper, got a block plane on them, trimmed off the one side that we don't need, and then realised I've got a sanding disc on my drill. Maybe it'd be easier if I got that out and really gave it a good shaping, just to see what we've got. They were actually coming out really nice. The more I sanded them, the more the shape came together and you could feel the strength in them. I was getting a really positive feeling about this, so I decided that these two were probably going to be keepers rather than tests.
Okay, after a quick 10 minutes outside with the drill attachment, you can see we've taken most of the rough surface off. What I don't want to do is go through, I'm treating it a bit like plywood, I don't want to go through the first layer of the thin strips that we put on there.
Yeah, he's right. So out came the hand sander and I just went at it for a good half an hour or so just to get rid of all of the marks. Now, despite having 2 good ones, I repeated the process that you've just seen twice again with 3 attempts on each one, and actually only one of them came out to be brilliantly usable, and that's this one. You can see, this oak one. I think my problem is the form. I could do with another form that I push onto it with some clamps that will hold everything tight together so you won't get the delamination we had. Anyway, this is what we've ended up with. I've got 3 good ones, I've got a backboard to mount them on, I just need to mark it up and away we go. I marked up on the board where I wanted each one to sit, and then I needed to recess them into position. For that, I just got my circular saw out with the jig that I made years ago, and I just cut some trenches for the hooks themselves to sit in. It's a really easy process, as long as you're comfortable with your circular saw and this jig. It's a great way of doing rebates of any kind, or dados. You should give it a shot. I gave the backboard a bit of a clean up, put a chamfer on it, mixed up some epoxy, and then just fixed the hooks to it. I have to say, at any stage in this video, if you've got anything to suggest to help me along the way, please pop a comment down below. Click the like and subscribe and I'll be very happy. Now I'm using epoxy here just because some of the hooks had a slight twist in them, so this being thicker than normal glue just holds everything and fills that gap nicely. Plus it's going to be in a bathroom, so it's nice and waterproof. Anyway, got them all into place, and the next step was, well, I decided to make my life a little bit harder. I wanted to put some dowels in there just for some extra strength and to be a bit of a feature. So I did. I'd always say with a project like this, don't be afraid to experiment. If you decide you want to put some dowels in or some inlay or anything like that, just give it a go. At the end of the day, mine came out different sizes. That I had to make my own dowels at one stage. It just happened. You'll get through it and you can hide your mistakes really easily. And anyway, all said and done, this came out really nicely. I just had to do a bit of a quick flush trim on the dowels, throw some lacquer on it, and it was good to go. And let's have a look at the end result.
And so here it is. Let me know if you've got anything that you would change on my build. Drop me some comment. If you've managed to get wood to bend like this, or maybe even tighter, let me know how you did it. I'd love to improve my technique.